So is it okay for a vegan to order a plant-based option from a non-vegan restaurant? Or is it like an ethical gray area because you might be supporting a business that contributes to the suffering and deaths of innocent animals? Let's count down 6 important points to consider, some good and some bad, and then I'll make a ruling on whether or not this is acceptable. Then we'll see if you agree. All right, let's rock. Point number 6, basic economics. So let's say that a business has 3 products for sale. A red one, a yellow one, and a green one. They put them out on the shelves, and then they monitor how much of each one sells over time. Now, if everybody buys that red and yellow option, but nobody ever buys the green option, then what happens? Well, eventually, they drop the green option altogether. It's not selling well, it's a terrible business investment for them, so they remove it. That's just basic economics. The way the business sees it, why waste any money on stocking something that nobody's gonna purchase, and who can blame them? Instead, they should either stop selling the green option and invest more in the red and yellow options, or just replace the green option altogether with a purple one and see if that one sells better. So how do we make sure that the vegan option stays on the menu? Well, by purchasing it, of course. By doing this, we show the restaurant that they made the right decision to sell a vegan dish in the first place, by voting for it with the almighty dollar. And the hope is that they expand that vegan menu because their current options are proving so profitable. Why not add more if you're making money? Now, could the restaurant use some of your vegan money to restock animal products? Well, maybe. I suppose it's possible, but I don't think it's all that likely. If they're smart and paying attention to their metrics, then they'll see the influx of money coming in for the vegan option and use your vegan money to order more of the vegan option because they know it'll turn into higher profits. They have proof of that now because of you. Now, another positive note here is that your money is not only supporting the restaurant, but it's also helping to support the vegan businesses that supply the restaurant, like local farmers or small mom and pop companies or corporations like Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat. I think it's a fair assumption that your vegan dollar is still largely funding veganism in this case, which helps the entire movement grow. Point number 5. Cross-contamination. All right, so this point will depend on how strict you are with your veganism, and here it is. The restaurant may be cooking your vegan food using the exact same stovetop, oven, fryer, and utensils that they use for all of their non-vegan options too. This means that the buffalo seitan wings that you just ordered and thought were clean because you were told that they were clean may be taking an oil bath with actual chicken flappers. Gross. There's a distinct possibility of cross-contamination in this case, or slight taste residue from dead animal products, which, how do you feel about that? So if you're really strict about your veganism, then you might have to pass on this one altogether. Or you could always try to verify with the restaurant that they use a separate fryer or grill space when prepping your vegan food, which unfortunately many places don't do. It just costs too much to have 2 of everything. Imagine buying 2 stoves, one for the normal people, which is 95% of your business, and one for the vegans, which is 5% of your business. Sometimes the money just doesn't work out. However, I do have to say that I have been to places that do use separate equipment for the plant-based options, which is very cool of them. Point number 4. Easy, albeit sneaky, evangelism. A restaurant that serves plant-based options is an easy win for you and your non-vegan family or friends when you all need to agree on a place to eat. It creates a wonderful opportunity to show your people that vegan options aren't just a sad, unseasoned, personality-less block of tofu, but that plant-based options can actually be fire. Maybe you get a vegan appetizer and they try a bite, if you can stand to share, of course, but this can help them better understand your taste experience. What's it like to be your tongue? Is that a weird way to put that? I don't care. They're about to find out that shockingly, vegan food is pretty delicious. And now they've gotten actual proof of that because you were all able to settle on a restaurant that worked for all of you. It's exactly like showing your picky friends some new music on a road trip. You're already traveling together, the pressure is super low, and it doesn't cost them anything other than just a little bit of their time. Boom. Easy, sneaky evangelism. Point number 3. Mistakes. So it's just a reality that humans are humans and we all make mistakes. We try as hard as we possibly can, but some things are still gonna slip through the cracks, right? Even if we try really, really hard, especially in a kitchen. Now for this situation, that means that every once in a while, we might accidentally ingest something non-vegan. That vegan cheese that you just ordered, maybe they forgot, or maybe they were just moving too fast and the cheeses look really similar, so they grabbed the wrong cheese and you just ate it. These things do happen. Maybe that plant-based aioli that they intended to make with fake mayo is actually made with real mayo and they just didn't notice. Maybe a piece of meat falls into your burrito during preparation and you just got it in the bite you just had. That's not great. Or maybe the server doesn't even realize that an ingredient isn't vegan and they incorrectly tell you that a dish is safe for you when it's actually not. These are all things that may occur. And if you're gonna dine at a vegan-friendly, non-vegan restaurant, then you have to be aware of and prepared for issues just just like these. If you choose to go to that restaurant and they make a mistake, that does not mean that you suddenly get to flip out about it and you're justified for that. You are not justified for that. This was your choice to go to that restaurant knowing that this could happen. That's one of the conditions of you going to the restaurant. You accept the fact that they may drop the ball. It is what it is. If this happens, just handle it calmly by explaining the error and asking for them to please correct it. Most places will respond with an apology and a quick fix. Actually, it super bugs me because then they make the food in like 5 minutes and bring it out to the table when you just waited a half hour for the food in the first place. How did it take 25 less minutes for you to get the fixed food? You know what I mean? I'm sure you've seen that happen. All right, neither here nor there. On to the next point. Point number 2. Ethical trajectory. So I cannot believe that this happened, but just as I was finishing writing the script for this video, my wife told me that one of our favorite vegan vegetarian burger places recently made a new decision to start serving actual meat. What the f***? Now this is obviously horrendous, but it got me thinking, how can I try to justify any argument for a meaty place serving vegan food if I also think it's so stupid and terrible and atrocious that a vegan vegetarian burger place started serving meat? Well, here's an analogy for this. I'm gonna call it ethical trajectory. Now, if your morally upstanding friend started dabbling in bad ethics, then you would check that person and try to help steer them back to the right path in life, right? But if your morally questionable friends started dabbling in good ethics, then you would be supportive and encourage them. Well, the same idea applies here. Put another way, if a gun company starts to manufacture medical equipment, that, to me at least, is a better move than a medical equipment company starting to manufacture guns. The vegan vegetarian spot is trying to make more money by throwing out their morals and adding death to the menu. That's fucked up. However, when a meaty restaurant serves vegan options, even if they're morally indifferent about veganism as a concept and it was strictly a capitalistic decision, then it's still a good decision with positive ethical ramifications in the end. So one restaurant is starting to kill animals when they never used to do that before just to make more money. And the other restaurant already does that, but is trying to make more money by harvesting more plants. Okay, do we see why that's different? The vegan restaurant that's adding death to the menu is clearly on the wrong ethical trajectory. They are going down. But when the restaurant that already kills things adds vegan options to the menu, that means that in general, their ethical trajectory is going up, however slightly. I am not saying that they are getting tons and tons better. They're definitely not, but it is moving in the right direction, even if it's just a little bit, and even if it's just for capitalism. Now, I do have one more gripe about this before we get on to the next point, and that's that the vegan vegetarian restaurant built their business with the vegan vegetarian dollar. And we were happy to support that business because their karma was so much cleaner than businesses that serve dead animals. But they took that money and gave us and the animals middle fingers just to grow their wealth, and that is fucked up. Now, on the other hand, a restaurant that serves meat built their business on death and torture, but is now diluting that evil with at least some semblance of good. That one is moving in the right direction, and the other is moving in the wrong direction. I argue that the ethical trajectory matters. Point number 1. Technically bad news. Okay, so just before we get to my ruling, I do have a tiny bit of news that you may not enjoy. Technically, if you buy a vegan option from a meaty restaurant, then objectively, you are supporting a business that contributes to animal suffering and slaughter. Now, that might be it for some vegans. They might bail right there. They might find it so uncomfortable and inexcusable to the point that it becomes unacceptable for them, which I totally understand and respect. That point of view is completely valid. But I don't think that all vegans need to be hyper-legalistic about this. I understand if you are, that's okay. I'm not upset about that. But I don't think everyone needs to be. Sure, ordering a plant-based meal from the meat shack might feel technically un-vegan, but I believe that the nuances matter here, and they are the saving grace. By ordering the vegan option from the meat shack, I think it's safe to assume that you're not directly supporting the dead animal aspect of that business, but you are directly supporting the veggie aspect. Now, am I naive to think that? Maybe, but I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Now, once you give your money to that restaurant, they're gonna do whatever they want with it. You have no say at that point. Could they use vegan dollars to buy dead animal inventory? Sure, I suppose that's possible. But like I said in the first point, if the business is smart, big if there, but most businesses are trying to make more money. So if they're smart, then they're using your money to order more vegan inventory because it's selling well. It seems like a logical assumption to me. Maybe some of that money goes to payroll, maybe some of it goes to marketing, maybe some of it goes to this or that, which ends up feeding the dead animal aspect of the business at some point. But if that's happening, they could also be using that money to encourage the vegan side of the business as well. Again, vegan dollars going to vegan items is an assumption, but I think it's a safe assumption to make. All right, let's get to the big questions now, shall we? The final ruling. Question number 1. Do I think it's acceptable for a vegan to order a plant-based option from a non-vegan restaurant? My ruling is yes. In my opinion, it is acceptable. So why did I land there? Because of basic economics, because we want to help support businesses that are dabbling in veganism because it helps the entire industry, because of the ability to evangelize to friends and family in an agreeable and convenient space for them, and because maybe it's just delicious for you and it further supports veganism in your life. Any one of those points are a good enough point to justify my argument here, in my opinion, of course. My wife and I dine out at crossover restaurants all the time, as well as fully vegan ones as often as we possibly can. So if you're looking for a vegan's permission to do this, then you have it. So I think it's acceptable to do this. But on to question number 2. Is it ethical for a vegan to order a plant-based option from a non-vegan restaurant? Now my ruling is, I don't think that it could ever be perfectly ethical, but I think it leans in the ethical direction. Let me explain. So if we could guarantee that they were spending our vegan money to restock vegan product only, then I could say that this leans very heavily towards ethical, basically to the point that it's totally fine at the end of the day. But because we don't know for sure where that money is going, that means that we can't make a definitive ruling here. But even if we knew for sure that our money was only funding vegan options, it's still not an ethically perfect situation because they do also serve meat, and that does matter here. That's why I say it can never be entirely ethical. It can never be 100% of the way, but it can tilt that direction to a lesser or greater degree, depending on the restaurant. Listen, I understand that these rulings unfortunately do include some moral imperfections here and there, but overall, I do think that my rulings are still justified, even if they're imperfect. I still think they hold up. The alternative is not supporting the plant-based options and then they just phase them out. They just disappear off the menus everywhere. That means less dollars to vegan products and companies, less evangelism, less options for us, and veganism slowly fades out of the culture. If any of those things happen, then the world moves in the wrong moral direction on this subject. The ethical trajectory goes down, and that's not something that I want to see happen. It's going to be this tiny little niche category that people kind of snicker at every once in a while. Oh my goodness, this place has a vegan option. Remember that movement? So to fight for this noble as hell cause, I think that we should order vegan everywhere that we possibly can. Now, with all that said, I'd say it's a lot less likely that I would return to a vegan restaurant that starts serving meat because they just kind of suck for doing that. But I am gonna be honest here. I've done it before very sparingly, and I'll probably do it again in the future, but it's harder for me to do. The ethical shift that that restaurant needs to make in order to make more money by killing things just feels kind of icky to me, so I only do this super, super rarely. Still, I do want to support veganism at the end of the day, so I'm going to rule this conflicting, but still technically allowed. But also, vegan restaurants, stop fucking doing that. Now lastly, I think it's important to say that the opinions I've given in this video might be the right answers from my wife and I, but they may or may not be the right answers for you. Ultimately, this has to be a decision that you make for yourself based on what you personally believe. But I'm happy to provide some things for you to consider as you make up your mind. But if you're asking for my opinion, manja manja, in most cases. And hey, do me a favor, comment your thoughts down below because I'd be interested in seeing how you see this. And remember, do something that makes the world a better place this week because people need you. All right, watch this awesome video next to check out the merch link down below, and I will see you next time.